Hello, and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin English, founder of The Silver Edge. Our mission at The Silver Edge is to inspire men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond to live their strongest, healthiest, most fulfilling lives. In this podcast, we share stories of amazing individuals who are doing just that, to help motivate you to become the healthiest version of yourself, regardless of your age. And now, on to today's podcast. My guest today is Joe Ames. Joe is a two-time CrossFit Games champion, first in 2015 in the 50 to 54 age group, and again last year in the 55 to 59 age group. He's the father of 4 grown children and has been married for 31 years. In his professional life, Joe was a vice president of sales for a national clothing brand until dropping out of corporate life 2 years ago to pursue his passion for helping others achieve health, wellness, and entrepreneurship. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Absolutely. Well, hey, as a relative CrossFit newbie myself, I'm really excited to dig in, talk to you about your journey to becoming a CrossFit champion, a two-time CrossFit champion. But before we go there, let's back up a little bit and talk about your childhood. What were you like as a kid? Were you active? Did you play a lot of sports?
Yeah, I was always active, like probably more so when we were kids than maybe today. We didn't have the Xbox to suck us in, and we were outside and we were playing, right? We'd go to, We had pickup basketball games, we had pickup softball games or baseball games, flag football, just out with your buddies. Yeah, I was always outside doing something. I wasn't someone who wanted to be cooped up inside, for sure. Yeah.
And did that continue into your school and high school years?
Yeah, then it became a little bit more organized. I was a 3-sport athlete all the time. It just depended on what season it was. We didn't have the specialized sports that kids do today. I know my kids, were on travel lacrosse teams and, playing in the winter, playing in the spring, playing in the fall. And when we were kids, it was just when it was football season, you played football. When it was basketball season, you played basketball, and then you rolled right into baseball. That was just kind of, that's just kind of how it went, And then after that, I did not, I was just an okay athlete. I was, good, serviceable athlete, but I was never the star of the team. And when it came time for college, it just wasn't really even on my radar. Never was on my radar. Maybe I could have played maybe a D3 level football, but I went to a Division I school. I went to UMass Amherst and just played intramurals and pick up basketball and, hit the weight room every now and then. We even played racquetball, but it was, nothing consistent where I was training like I do today, not even close.
Gotcha. So it sounds like then your entire life you would be considered an active person, always exercising, moving your body, etc. Yeah,
I never had that big transformation, Kevin. I remember that guy that got up to 280 pounds and decided to change his life. I just never had a problem with my weight. I might have been a little flabby, I wasn't, I actually posted this picture on my Instagram. It was me when I was, it was in 2009. No, 1999. I had a picture of myself in 1999 holding my daughter's hand on the beach. I didn't have a shirt on. And then a picture next to it of me in the year 2019. Right before I went to the games, and it's like you'd look at it, you're like, oh my God, how does that happen? But it is amazing with the body. The body's a resilient thing. If you treat it right, it'll do amazing things for you, and if you don't, it'll show that too.
Yeah, that's right. So you were active all the way through school. Sounds like still active during your college years. So we know that you had a career, you got married, you had 4 kids. What was your fitness like during that time in your life? I know that that can be a busy time for a lot of folks. Marriage, kids take a lot of your time and resources. And of course, that's usually about the time your career is in full gear. What was your fitness like during that part of your life?
Not good. I traveled a lot during my 30s. We had 4 kids. The youngest 2 are twins. It was just crazy time when the older 2 were starting to get into sports. The younger 2 were just infants. there wasn't a lot of time and I was traveling, 3 to 4 days a week on a plane. So, fitness definitely took a back seat. And it was like when I was 40 years old, I remember I was playing pickup basketball. I tore my ACL, and I said, I'm going to use this as my excuse to get back into shape. I'm going to use that PT time to try to, dial in things like my diet and, try to get my core strengthened up, because that was a big thing back then. You had to get your core strengthened. So I did. I started going to the gym on a regular basis, not doing a ton of cardio, just kind of lifting. And then I slowly introduced cardio into the routine, and that led to my mid 40s was when I kind of had, I don't know, just that period when I'm like, okay, what if I tried a triathlon? So I did. I went out and I had been doing some running. I had been doing some biking. I said I could introduce swimming to it. So I got into a sprint triathlon, and I set a goal for myself that I wanted to be really good at it. And I wanted to go to Kona. And in order to get to Kona, you have to be top 3 at one of the events that are held around the world for the Ironman. And I remember going down. I was doing a half Ironman in Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island. And the swim started in Narragansett, Rhode Island. So it's a 1.2 mile swim, and there were 2,000 people in the race. So before you do a triathlon, go swim, then bike, then run. So you put your bikes out in this parking lot, and you're like, my God, how am I ever going to be able to find my bike? There's 2,000 bikes here. But I was one of the last guys out of the water, so it wasn't that hard finding my bike. You know what I mean? You come running out, and there's like 100 bikes left. You're like, oh yeah, there it is. So, and that's kind of that sums up my triathlon career. I tried, but I just put myself in such a hole coming out of that water that I'm like, I'm always just going to be middle of the pack here. And talk about time away from your family. As my wife is trying to get our kids to sporting events, I'm taking off on a bike for 4 hours. I was always trying to squeeze it in. I remember running to work one morning. I got up at like 4:30 in the morning. I ran, 16 miles to work, just crazy things, just trying to squeeze it in. But yeah, that my goal never came true, but I got myself in really good shape.
So it sounded like you probably did some sprints. You did the half. Did you ever get to complete the full Ironman?
No, I never did it. I did 2 halves. And then I did 3 marathons on top of that. And Kevin, I just lost my desire. You know what I mean? It's like it was lonely. It was a grind. I would gotten away from the weight room because you're spending so much time on the bike or in the water or running. And my kids would make fun of me because I didn't have any muscles left in my arms. So ironically, that's when I said, you know what, I'm done with this long training regimen, and I'm going to try this CrossFit stuff out. And it was only just to get some muscle in my body. Like you say, you just started not too long ago. I was you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we talked a little bit beforehand. I've got a very similar story. I got sucked into the triathlon thing, and I had really wanted to complete an Ironman. By the time I finished 2 of those half Ironmans, that's enough of this. And it was for a lot of the reasons you just said, right? A lot of it was family and social, just always getting that long run in and then recovering and then eating the carbs and all of that. And I didn't particularly like it. And I looked like a mid-pack triathlete. I was very skinny, didn't have any muscle mass at all. So talk to us a little bit about your nutrition specifically before you got into the CrossFit, but while you were doing all this marathons and the triathlons, what did your nutrition look like at that point in your life?
It was good, but to your point, Kevin, there's a lot of carbs in there that like just a lot. I'd eat a lot of pasta and a lot of rice, and I just didn't really care what I was eating because I was logging so many miles and burning so many calories doing the running and the biking. And I was just honestly just trying to learn about nutrition. I would read books, but I wasn't nearly as dialed in as I am now. Like I knew a fraction of what I know now, but I tried. I tried reading the books, doing all the right things. And mostly in my mind, it was like, how do you stop yourself from bonking? Remember that
Yeah. Oh
term?
yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the worst thing in the world. You're out on a bike ride, next thing you know, you can't go any farther. Just your body just doesn't want to go. So a lot of it was just trying to prohibit myself from getting into that danger zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize if they haven't done endurance athletics, a lot of it is just the strategy of fueling on
Yeah.
these hour-long runs and hours-long bike rides. It's a matter of continuously feeding yourself, and you're right, you're sucking down all those goos or whatever it is you're doing to try and stay fueled to keep from bonking. So, all right, so that brings us up to you found CrossFit. Tell us, so you're kind of burnt out, it sounds like, on the triathlons. Did somebody introduce you to CrossFit? Did you already have an idea of what that was? What was your introduction to CrossFit like?
Yeah, one of the business contacts that I had in Indianapolis knew that I was into triathlons, and he says, "Oh man, you should try this CrossFit thing out." He says, "I freaking love it," and he started telling me more about it. I'm like, "Tell me more." So he did, and he had lost a lot of weight. He was one of those guys that did go through a big transformation, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a try." So I started looking around for a good quality CrossFit gym nearby. Unfortunately for me, there was one halfway between my house and work. So it was really convenient for me to hit it on the way to work or hit it on the way home. And I remember my first workout. Maybe you have a similar experience, but I go in on a Saturday workout. I had just finished my on-ramp course. So this was my first class with everybody. And they were doing rope climbs and rowing. There was just like two movements, no big deal. And I thought I was going to die. I mean? I didn't know how to climb a rope, so I was probably doing legless rope climbs. I was just, pulling too hard on the rower. And I just remember thinking to myself, my God, I've never been this winded in my entire life. But I came back the next day, I did it again. And the community of a CrossFit gym is really important. And that I enjoyed that. That had been missing in my workout life. Like I told you, you're doing it by yourself a lot of times, right? And now suddenly you had people around that wanted to talk, and you could put your name up on the board. So there was kind of this competitive feel to it. And, being a newbie, I was like, I didn't know anybody in the gym. I didn't know how strong they were or anything like that. But I'd always try to find who's the guy that's closest to me, and can I do better than them? Just in a cool kind of way, just to keep you motivated. And it just clicked with me. It just clicked.
Yeah, I think that resonates with a lot of folks, and maybe specifically men our age, right? It's tough sometimes. You don't really have an outlet for that competitive piece, and I think CrossFit is a great way of doing that. Let's face it, it's exercise, right? But it's competitive exercise. Well, hey, who can do this the fastest? Who can go the heaviest? And that is a great outlet. And you're right, the community also aspect is huge when you have people there cheering on the person who's finishing first and just as loudly for the person finishing last. I mean, it's a great community, very supportive all around. I'm pretty sure you found that to be similar experience.
Yeah. And, let's see, it's been 7 years now that I've been doing sport CrossFit, and I've never stayed with anything for 7 years.
Yeah.
I've always bounced around when I got bored doing one thing, go on to do something else. But I think we're seeing it right now as we're kind of in, quarantine. You're back to working out by yourself. And we talked about it earlier. It's just not as much fun.
It's not as fun. No. So at what point so you walked into a CrossFit, you did the on-ramp class, you got your butt kicked and fell in love. At what point did you realize that you were not just good at this, or maybe when you first realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this? And then when did you realize, you know what, I'm really good at this?
Yeah, it was early on that the guy who owned my gym said, "Have you ever thought about competing?" So I joined in May, and it was probably in July. And he's like, "Have you ever thought about competing?" And I was like, "I just started. Give me a break. Like I'm not yet. I'm not there yet." And someone signed me up for one for a master's comp in October. So I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And I went and I did it. And little did I know, but there was like 2 or 3 athletes there that had been to the games as masters, and I was winning, midway through the day. And I ended up after 2, so I was 4 events. I was first after 2 events. I ended up coming in 4th, but it was my first comp ever. And one of the coaches or one of the other owners of my gym posted on our Facebook site. He's like, watch out for this guy. He's got talent. And I'm like, maybe I do. So I kept working on things, and let's see, and when I was 49, I came in like 120th in the Open as a 49-year-old. And I'm like, well, I'm aging up next year. I got a chance. So I did. I practiced a lot of things that hold people back, and I qualified I was tied for 20th, and I won in a tiebreaker. And then one other guy dropped out. So back then, top 20 went. So I was number 19. So 519 was my number, and that's when I went to the games for the first time. And I've qualified for the games 6 of the last 7 years. So,
if I'm not mistaken, you qualified this year as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up a little bit, because not everybody listening is going to know a lot of the vocabulary and the way CrossFit works. So when you say you're 129th in the Open, somebody might think, well, that's not very good, 129th place. Why don't you explain a little bit about what the Worldwide Open is, what the participation in that looks like, and why 129th is really impressive?
Yeah, so there's 15,000 CrossFit gyms around the world, and they have these things called the Opens. So it's a period of time when for 5 weeks in a row they'll post a workout. Every gym around the world will do that workout. It's released on a Thursday night. You have to have your score posted online by Monday night, and at the end of that 5 weeks, you're ranked. Depending on how you finished each event, it's a point system, and you're ranked. So depending on the age group that you're in, there's different amounts of people. Like with the 35 to 39-year-old, there might be 40,000 men and women each, competing for top what is now 10 spots. But back then, I don't know, maybe there was 4,000, 5,000, 8,000. But no, in the 40s, there were probably like 8,000 people. And I came in 129th. And then the next year I became a 50-year-old. So they go into, it's every 5 years is when you are your age groups, right? So I was entering into the 50 to 54-year-old division. And at that time, maybe there was 4,000 men that were 50 to 54 that were doing these workouts. And I ended up being in the top 20. And then the top 20 go to what they call the CrossFit Games, which back then were held in California. And you go and you compete in this really cool venue, and ESPN was there. And it's surreal to think, oh my God, I'm 50 years old and I'm competing for a world championship. It was really, really wild. But I got my butt kicked when I was out there. That was my first year out. I was nervous. It's a 3-day competition where you're doing crazy CrossFit stuff for 3 straight days. And by the last day of competition, Kevin, my legs they were so sore. It felt like I had never worked out before. I was that sore. And I just remember looking at the other guys. No one else seemed to be as beat up as I was. So I came in 13th place. And this is when my nutrition kind of comes into play. So I was flying home from California to Boston, and I went and I said, I got to go see a nutritionist, because there's got to be a reason why nobody else was as sore as I was. So I did. I went and saw this woman. She's a well-known sports nutritionist here in Boston, and she works with a bunch of Division I athletes, pros, you name it. And she said, let me see what you're eating. And she said, Joe, you're eating better than 99.9% of the people in this world. And I did. I was eating right 5 times a day. I was eating well. She goes, but where are your supplements? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, where's your protein powder? Where's your BCAAs? Where's your recovery? Like, that's what this is all about, is how do you recover so that you're able to go back at it again the next day and work out really hard. That's where the gains come from. I said, I've just never thought that I needed them. She goes, well, if you're just going to be out doing regular stuff, you don't really need supplements as long as you're eating well. She said, but if you're eating well and then you add in the right supplements, you'll be unstoppable. So I was like, all right, that's my goal. I want to go win it next year. So I started using protein powder, which probably a lot of people on this call already use, but I didn't. I started using creatine. I started using BCAAs. I started using greens. I started taking fish oil, like all these things that I had never even thought were game changers, but they're freaking game changers. And I went back the next year and I won. And like I said, I've been back. I've qualified 6 of the last 7 years. And usually it's usually only once you get into that age bracket, like year 1 and year 2 is when your best chances are. And after that, it's just, the numbers are against you. It's a young man's sport in every age bracket. So the fact that I've qualified that many times and won it twice, like, yeah, it speaks volumes about my recovery and my nutrition.
It certainly does. And CrossFit crowns you champions the fittest on earth, and rightfully so. If you've ever watched some of these CrossFit Games championships, it is a grueling 3-day test. And certainly going there, I believe it was 2014 was the first year you qualified and went to the games.
Yeah, won it, and then I won it in 2015.
And then won it the next year. Yeah.
And won it in again last year in 2019.
That is fantastic. So talk to us. What does that feel like? That's got to be, you mentioned it's kind of surreal going into that big of a venue and competing like that. What's it like to stand on top of that podium and be crowned the fittest on earth?
Kevin, it's really, I love most about it is my kids get so jacked up about it. You know what I mean? My kids are old now too. Like I have a 24-year-old, almost 25. I have 22-year-olds, twins that are 19 now. And, their friends follow me on Instagram. It's just, they've come out to the games and just see me win. I can hear them yelling in the stands, and they're just so proud. And that to me is worth more than anything else. Just seeing them and how they react to me was the win.
Yeah, that's a proud dad moment there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you talked to us a bit about the importance of supplementation, and you mentioned that your diet was pretty well on point. What does your diet look like? And has it changed? I mean, what did your diet look like in 2015 and compare that to now?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar now. And one of the things she turned me on to was macros, counting my macros. And if you don't know what that is, it's how many grams of protein you get a day, how many grams of carbs, how many grams of fat, and hydration. How much water you're getting a day. Those, if you can do that, like take the supplements even out of it. If you can stick to a macro based diet where you hit your numbers every single day, and there are easy apps to use. It's not crazy. You can, these apps now like Lose It or MyFitnessPal, that you can literally, use a barcode scan to hit any foods that you're eating, if it's, unless it's produce or something like that, or meats. And you just log it. And if you hit your numbers, it works. That's all there is to it. You stay away from sugar. You try to keep your, carbs that you take in to be good carbs. And at the beginning, it's like a foreign language, but quickly, if you do it just slowly, just start fixing things that are broken. You found, Kevin, right? I mean, it gets to be easy. When you're going off track, and people, I'll be out to dinner with people and I'll end up getting dessert, and they'll be like, "You eat dessert?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I eat dessert." I don't have dessert every single night, but yeah. So one of the things the big thing that I learned, was that macros, it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet, right? Macros, you're counting your carbs, your fats, your protein. As long as you're eating the right things, it'll change anybody's life. It's not, you don't have to boil the ocean in a day. It's just little steps that you can take. I tell people, like, even if it's just, consuming more water during the day, or getting up and having a breakfast to start your day off, and not a bagel either. I'm a big one for meal replacement shakes for my breakfast if I'm in a hurry. If I'm not in a hurry, I'll cook my eggs and bacon, and I'm good to go. I'll have a nice breakfast that way. But I always start my day with something I try to eat 5 times a day. I don't know what you've experienced, but for me, the more I eat, if I'm eating clean foods and I'm eating 5 times a day, I feel my best.
Yeah, that's the same with me. And I follow a very similar philosophy. I try and eat as many whole foods as possible. And over the years, I've kind of experimented with my macro balance, and I feel like I've gotten that pretty well dialed in. But I'm at a place where I feel my best, my most energetic. My body composition seems to agree with it. And I think that maybe that part's a little bit different for everybody, but the part that's the same for everybody is that that formula exists out there. It's not hard once you dial it in, and just eating that, getting rid of the processed food, getting rid of the crap, getting rid of the sugar, and concentrating on the whole foods is pretty universal, I think, for healthy diets.
Well, I'll say this. You mentioned in my bio, I left corporate America 2 years ago, and what I ended up getting into was I got into network marketing with a company called Isogenics, and those are the supplements that I had switched to when I was when I met with that woman and I started really dialing in my nutrition to travel as much as I was doing, and you'd have to have bags of chicken in your pocket. You know what I mean? So I needed easy nutrition. I think that's the problem most people have is they know what to do, but it's just not easy. You need a playbook. And I found that, this company was able to give me quality, dense nutrition and make it easy. Right? Does that make sense?
It certainly makes sense. And I fully agree that a lot of people are intimidated by how difficult or how perceived difficult being on a healthy, wholesome diet can be. And certainly companies like Isogenics that are producing these quality products and are making it very easy or simplifying good, solid nutrition.
Yeah. It's not instead of or in place of good food. You keep that healthy diet, right? They call them supplements for a reason. They supplement an already good diet. It's not supposed to be in place of anything. But like I said before, so many people need a playbook. And I have helped a lot of people over the years, both with weight loss or performing in the gym better, who have just said to me, just show me what to do. I say, okay, here's what you do.
All right. And I'll certainly come back to that towards the end of the show if anybody's got questions on how to get in touch with you regarding that. But right now, let's leave diet and supplements alone for a little bit and talk to me about recovery. Somebody who works out with the intensity that you do, with the regularity that you do, it's got to take into consideration, especially at our age, recovery. What do you do for recovery? What are your thoughts on sleep and things of that nature?
I try to get my 8 hours of sleep. I always feel better if I'm well hydrated throughout the day. That helps me. But I can't really Kevin, I just can't have that conversation without, to me, I need my fish oils. I need my tart cherry. I do need certain supplements in order to help me the next day, especially at our age, man. I found a lot of times you get out to the games and guys are so beat up before the competition even starts, and we're not 35 years old anymore, which is not, this podcast is for people over 50 and stuff breaks. So I tend to listen to my body. When it whispers, I listen to it. I don't try to power through stuff. If I know that I just tweaked something, I stop, because I know that that's bad news. And so for me, if I'm not feeling it the next day, let's just say I'm not recovered, I'll cut it back. I'll shorten the day. I'll do whatever. I just, like I said, we're over 50 years old. Yeah. Stuff breaks.
Now, do you use any kind of biofeedback device? Do you use a Whoop or any of the other products?
No, and I know a lot of people are really big fans of Whoops, but mentally, I'm just like, I don't want to know when. If I feel good, but my watch tells me that I'm not feeling good, that to me is a head game, But there's a lot of merit in what they're doing. I know a lot of people that swear by it. I just don't.
Well, and I think what you said earlier is key there, right? And you even said it very eloquently. You mentioned that your body whispers to you. And I think that's important that we learn to listen to our bodies, especially again at our age. And that has to go a long way with our recovery. So it sounds like for recovery strategy, clearly it's listening to your body, proper supplements, get that 8 hours of sleep, and then know when to back off when you need to.
Yeah, and I didn't get into this for the intention of just going out and winning the CrossFit Games. I wanted to, I work out now for my 80-year-old self. I truly want to be skiing in Vail on bump runs with my grandkids when I'm 80. that's what I want to do. I mean, for so many years in my travel, we had an account that was a big account of ours down in Florida. So I've traveled from Boston down to Florida. And I remember seeing these retired guys that had worked their butts off their entire career. And there's a line of wheelchairs going down to the plane. And I'm like, that's not where I want to be. So I truly do work out and I eat so that I can be doing this type of stuff 20 years from now.
Yeah, I've read in your one of your posts, you say your goal is to stay functional while I'm deep in the back nine of my life. So I thought that was well said.
Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about what your workout routine looks like now. If you're listening to this in the future, we're recording this in April of 2020, and we've got all the corona craziness happening right now. So things are obviously a little disrupted right now. But that aside, what does a week of training look like for an athlete at your level?
It depends on the time of year, but it's probably 5.5 days of training. When I say half, that I'll usually take Wednesday and Sunday off. Sunday will be completely off, but Wednesday will be, maybe a 45-minute Peloton ride or a run at 50% for 40 minutes or so. And then the other times it's an hour, it's an hour and a half, usually at least in the gym, and it's not an hour and a half of killing yourself. I follow programming from Big Dogs, which is an affiliate of OPEX gyms out in Arizona. So it's online remote training. You have a coach, and you'll send him videos, and you'll have the workout there every single day when you get up, or you'll be able to see a week out in advance what your workouts are going to look like. And I just follow them, and it's not, a beat you up type workout. They're periodization workouts that really do focus on getting you stronger. I think one of my knocks against CrossFit is a lot of times you're lifting more weight than you should be lifting, or you're doing kipping pull-ups, which are like cheating, and you put so much torque on your shoulders, and it's just not good for you. So this group that I use now, it's a lot of strict movements, strict pull-ups, working with weights that you can work out with. And it's not trying to hit 1 rep maxes every week. It's just getting you stronger.
Yeah. And it sounds like that might be, is that individualized? Do you work with your coach to say, hey, these are my, this is where I'm strong, this is where I'm weak, or where I'm trying to get better?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And if there's something that's bothering you, they work around it, to strengthen whatever it is that's bothering you. So, it's definitely individualized training as opposed to just kind of a one size fits all deal.
Okay, great. As we're starting to wrap up here, what would you say to somebody who's listening to this, and maybe it's a man or a woman in their 50s, maybe 60s, perhaps they were active at one point in their life, but for whatever reason, not so much now. They're listening to this, they're looking at your Instagram, and they're thinking, I don't know, would CrossFit be, that sounds like something I'd like to try, but it seems intimidating. What advice would you give to somebody who's looking to just get started in something like CrossFit a little later in life?
The first thing I'd say is, do your research on the type of gyms that are in your area. They're not all the same. A really good CrossFit gym will have a boot camp. They'll have things other than doing overhead squats with a lot of weight or pull-ups. It'll just be a boot camp, but you'll get the benefit of the community that we talked about earlier, right? That you have new friends that you're going to find inside these gyms that you're going to hang out with, that you're going to want to see, that's going to hold you accountable for going. That to me is the most important thing. Like, can you put a consecutive string of days and weeks and months together where you're going to and doing something, and if you find new friends in the meantime, man, that's an added benefit that you're not going to get being at home. Don't let, your fear of the unknown stop you from walking into a CrossFit gym. There's not a bunch of meatheads in there. It's just if you go to the right place, there's good quality training, and you don't have to be a hero. You go at your pace. You do what's good for you, and try it out. I did and was hooked. And same with you. There's so many people I know that have just gone in and been hooked on day one. It's hard to find a sport or an activity that it's that quick of a adoption rate.
I had a very similar experience. Yeah, I think the hardest part for me was walking in that first day. It is a little intimidating, but I would echo your sentiment strongly that the community is very strong, very supportive, and you get a lot of benefits aside from getting in great shape.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, what's next for you? What does the next year look like for you?
Well, we're going to see if they have the CrossFit Games. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I'm working really hard. I'm taking advantage of this. For a lot of people is downtime. I work out of my house as it is, but I'm able to connect with a lot more people. This business I do with Isagenix is I approach it from the business side as opposed to the product side. We have great products, but that's not my main focus. My main focus is going out and find other people who, like you, Kevin, are passionate about health and fitness, and you'd like to find a way to make a living out of it. That's what I've done. I was able to walk away from a 21-year career as a vice president of sales to do this crazy thing called network marketing. And if you really, pull the covers back on what this, or peel the onion back a little bit on what this business is all about, you find out that it allows you to be a sole proprietor, doing something you love and helping other people along the way. So for me, it's been a blessing.
Okay, fantastic. And I will drop in the show notes here links for folks that want to learn more about Isagenix. You also mentioned Big Dogs Training. I'll drop a link. So anybody listening to this that wants to learn more information, you can check that out as well. And Joe, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? I know you have a great Instagram account.
Yeah, that's one way. It's at Joe_Ames_22. But there's also my website, which is joeames.isagenix.com.
And I'll drop that in the show notes as well. Well, Joe, you're certainly an inspiration, and keep up the great work. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Take care.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it, brother.
Well, that's our show for today, folks. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends and please consider subscribing and giving us a 5-star review. All the show notes and much more are available at our website at silver-edge.com. That's silver-edge.com. So until next time, stay strong.